just emails. Okay, so I'm sure we've all. Hello and welcome. I'm Beth O'Malley, and I'm going to be talking to you today about the future of email, strategy, impact, and innovation, and why you must stop sending just emails. Okay, so I'm sure we've all heard the phrase that email is dead, okay? And I, for one, think that email as we know it is completely dead. But it's having a bit of an identity crisis. I have been in the industry for that long now that I am seeing so much change, and I hear this all the time, or at least that email doesn't work for us, that it probably shouldn't be a channel that anyone uses anymore, but yet it's still here. But email marketing, as we know, is fully dead because we can't use the same tactics, the same strategies that we've been using for the past 10, 20, 30 years. So the other day, I was working with a really brilliant marketer. She's smart, she's creative, and she's the one that every single business really, really needs. That every single day she's firefighting, she's reacting, she's been told to like send more emails out, let's just keep spinning plates and do everything for the rest of the business. So she was completely drowning, and she said, I really want to look at my strategy. I just don't know where to take email next. So when she finally gets a moment to do it, she ends up a little bit like this, a little bit like I am every single day. She's been told to send it to all. Just do a quick email blast. Let's just do a newsletter. I saw this on LinkedIn. Let's try it. Why aren't we doing that? Plus everything else you're trying to do as a marketer to keep your head above water. And then email doesn't seem to do much for you. We get some opens, we get some clicks, but like it's not really doing anything for us. And then there's deliverability. Where do we even start with it? What is it? How do we fix it? How do we know if it's working? How do we know if it's bad? Who do I send to? Who don't I send to? And it's not that you don't want to be better as marketers. I fundamentally just don't believe there's the right information and knowledge out there to help you move forward and improve the future of email for your business. But the problem is how we think about email, how we've all been taught to approach it. And it's usually passed down from person to person in an organization, and it doesn't ever evolve and it doesn't ever innovate. So in the next 20 minutes, I'm going to show you what email can become from a tactical broadcast channel as you're using it to a full-blown innovative strategy that I believe any business can use this approach and get with the times and get with the future of email. So how most people do email, look, you've got a list of email addresses in the database, you've got a calendar, you've got a platform that technically works. But what happens? You sit down, you look at that content calendar and you say, okay, right, what do we need to do today? What are we going to get out? What do we need to talk about? What sales targets do we need to hit today? And you start with the latest product, promo, thing that you think you need to talk about. But unfortunately, if you send more, you don't get more results. But this is why emails had to evolve, because we have been using the same playbook since 2003. And it's really funny because in 2003, that is when the email builder came out with all these tools, and everything's still the same. Nothing's changed. But the inbox today and humans are very, very different. We've got privacy changes, which I'm going to talk a little bit more about in a second. AI, human behavior, everything here is fundamentally trying to stop you from sending more emails. And this is why we can't keep doing what we've done for such a long time. Okay, so it's not just things like AI. AI has impacted the email world, but it's things like privacy first inboxes. People are valuing trust over traffic. We have Google's most relevant feature. If you haven't seen this, they've started rolling this out. And in the consumer inboxes, it's going to start to rank your emails based on engagement, which emails from which subscribers you're going to see first. It's making sure that the user has the autonomy to make their inbox a place that they don't feel overwhelmed. It doesn't start building up. They don't bulk delete or bulk unsubscribe emails. Microsoft filters are AI based, and machine learning is just growing. Those spam filters we cannot keep up with. They are growing, they are changing weekly. And all of them are prioritizing trust over absolutely everything else. So if you keep like batching and blasting, buying lists, scraping data, or just keep sending to everybody because you need to get that email out, in the next few years, email as a channel is going to become non-existent for you. But really, I don't see the privacy change as, I don't think we're losing reach. Everybody keeps saying to me, we're losing reach, we're losing people, they're becoming disengaged. And actually, I don't think we're losing reach. I think we're losing permission. I think that's what is happening, because people are bulk unsubscribing at certain times of year. At Christmas, where you've got a little bit more time and you're like, I'll finally unsubscribe from all these emails. There's things like email shields and dummy emails that you can create if you don't want to put into a website, into a sign up, your email. And then there's cold email filtering. This is a new phenomenon in B2B where there are tools out there that can filter cold emails that come into your inbox and just make them disappear. So cold email is going to die as we know it. But we're entering this kind of one-click unsubscribe, you're in control of your own inbox in work and in your personal life. But it doesn't just mean the tech's changed. It really means that people have changed. People are way more inclined to be mistrusting of your brand or your business when they hand over their email address. Because people go into their inbox for specific reasons, right? To compare it to social media, people open social media for dopamine, for pleasure, for fun, for entertainment. And it's very, very unlikely that people do that in their inboxes. People actually go in their inboxes to check, to get a code for something. They remembered, oh, I do need to buy that. I'm sure they've probably sent me a code in my inbox. I'm going to grab it. To go back because they remember something they saw and now something's come up prevalent in their life or in their work where they need to research it. They might go back and refer back to things and search, but most importantly, they go in there because they need to ensure that no information they need to know has been missed. Things like important documents or important emails, and just making sure they've checked. That's what people go into their inbox for. But ultimately, emotion is the operating system that affects all of our decisions in day-to-day life, and that goes into the inbox. Every single decision in that inbox is emotion-led. Okay? People don't go in to read all their emails. They go in to check, right? So they scan for that emotion and then they read. And AI has made information completely abundant. We can't withhold any information anymore. It's freely out there. You can search on ChatGPT and it will tell you anything. So email, again, everyone thinks, oh, we put so much value in this email, people should read it, but people are attention scarce. There's too much information out there. And it's really hard for people to digest all of this content that's going on. So these are the things that you need to know, because when we change your email strategy, these are the things that are going to make or break it. And finally, the inbox is a private space. I think we forget that. No one else is seeing my emails in my inbox. Only I see that. It's my private space, but yet we treat it like it's social media, like it's just a batch and blast. It's a broadcast. So what does the future look like of email? Email is moving from a channel all the way to an ecosystem, because the future of email is not about just sending more or just keep sending what you're doing. It's about connecting more. And it's exactly why we need a new kind of structure than just sending emails. We need a model that helps us embed a function into a business that supports every single touch point across the customer journey. And most marketers, they can't innovate their email marketing because they don't see how it all fits together. They don't know how their systems can affect their email marketing or their data, their deliverability, or what sales are doing or what service are doing. Everything's really fragmented. So I've developed a framework that breaks down what email looks like as an ecosystem into 4 key layers. It's going to go through how we can strategize and innovate email into that next level. And what it is, it's called the 4P framework. And it's made up of 4 layers, and it's a layered strategy that I've built in every single piece of work I do in all the industries that are out there. It's a layered strategy to audit, fix, and innovate your email ecosystem. So let's start with the first layer of the 4Ps. We've got the pillars, and these are ultimately your most important foundations that you need to get right. Systems, strategy, and data. If you have bad systems and you have systems that don't talk to each other, and you have systems that are out of date, that stop you from operationalizing email. And what I mean by that is getting the right email out at the right time. And you have to do workarounds for everything. You have to export lists and import lists. There's your first hurdle. You cannot innovate email. You cannot grow email because you're going to be doing the same stuff that you've always done if you haven't got the right systems in place. And then we've got strategy. This is the why behind the email function. And it's a surprise how many businesses do not have a strategy behind email marketing or communications in their business. They have no idea how it aligns. They know what the outcome they want. They want more leads, they want more sales, but they have no strategy. How are you going to get there? How will it grow? How is it going to be optimized? How much budget do we need? Who will look after it? What's it going to look like if we're successful? And what you have is a content calendar, like I said, a few automations, a dashboard. You look at your opens and clicks religiously, like they really, really matter. But very few teams get this right. The real strategy answers the question, why are we using email in the first place? And what's it here to do? What's it here to do, and how's it going to support the business? It's the reason why your email program exists. It's the backbone of everything that you're going to do. So you need to ask yourself these 4 questions on the bottom of the slide to make sure you're very clear of the role in every single business. And most businesses will say it's there as a sales tool, but that's fundamentally wrong. Email has never been there as a primary sales driver. Something you can use straight away. I'm going to talk about an example of how I track email. Everyone is so focused on how we attribute email back to sales, and it's incredibly hard. If you work in B2B, I know the pain. It's so hard to say that email got us these leads, because so many journeys for a customer is multi-touch. There is so many channels, there's so many influences, and how I track email ROI is incredibly difficult, but it's incredibly innovative. It's return on impact, not return on investment. Return on impact is the value that email delivers across the whole journey in a business when you can't directly track it. It's things like brand recall, visibility, emotional engagement, uplift in search volume, pipeline momentum. It's about growth overall over a long period of time. And a really quick example of this and how this has worked, if anybody knows Wagamama's restaurant chain, oh my gosh, I love Wagamama's. We were planning on going there on a date night on a Friday, and I got an email on the Tuesday from Wagamama's, and I wouldn't usually open it, but I was thinking about them. And I opened it for 3 seconds, and all I saw was they've just launched giant bao buns. I deleted the email. I thought, that's all I need to know. I text my partner, and I was like, they're selling giant bao buns. We have to go. Then I text my mum and I text my friends. That's impact. Now they're going to say, oh, that person opened that email, and potentially I might not even got tracked as an open because it was on Apple Mail. We all know what that means. But it proved impact. I took an action. I had a feeling. And that's what email is all about. So before you plan your content, your segments, your lists, and you obsess over what call to action color you're going to make that button, I want you to highlight, what do we want email to impact in our business and as part of our marketing strategy? That's the really important. This is your new measurement framework that you're going to use going forward. And finally, the final pillar is data. This is your greatest asset, but it can also be your greatest downfall. Your biggest liability in any business is the data. And that's the foundation of it all. If it's a mess, I promise you're going to hit a glass ceiling of what you can do. Are you collecting the right data? Is it clean? Is it at risk of bouncing when you send an email? Do you even know who these people are? If the answer is no, you've got some work to do before you think about what kind of content you're going to send out. And you can't personalize or segment or know your audience unless you have these 6 things. It's really, really important that you get your data to a healthy place. Okay, the next layer of the pyramid. No, the next layer of the 4 Ps is the pyramid. This is the only way I could come up with a concept to visually show you. And what I call it is the email hierarchy of needs. Okay. And I created this because most email strategies are completely upside down. The focus is on the campaigns and the outputs. What shall we say in our emails? What shall we design our emails? Is this going to affect our audience if we change the call to action? What time is it best to send our emails? Forget everything. Forget all of that, because what you need to do is look at the email hierarchy of needs. And the idea of this is that the only logical way to look at it is just like Maslow's hierarchy of needs. It shows us what we can't focus on until we've done the layer above. So we start at the top, and here is the strategy layer, the most important bits, the big picture stuff, the things that you have to get right, the mindsets and approaches to email, the audience strategy, the personas. And then we go down to the next layer. So this is like your data, your systems, compliance. We have to get all that sorted before we can even think about deliverability and a deliverability strategy, before we can even think about email flows and email journeys, because we have to get that top bit right. And then underneath that, we can start thinking about those core campaign elements, things like design, copy, send time, lists, and things like that, because you can't make email make sense when you start at the bottom and you try and then do the top. And finally, the third P, principles. I think best practice in email marketing is absolute rubbish. I fully believe in something that I like to call guiding principles, because I can't give you a list. I can't give you a list of things to do and not to do in email, okay? Because it's not going to work. Best practice is what everyone else is doing, and there's no way you can innovate, because if you're doing what everybody else is doing, you're going to be like everybody else. It's often outdated. It's rarely tested. It's built for someone else's audience. And that's exactly why I wanted to do something deeper than a tip or a trend. But I had to come up with something, because I do think there's guardrails in emails. There are some things I would tread carefully around. So instead of best practice, I want you to throw them all out the window. I want you to get rid of all the best practice. And I want you to come up and I want you to listen to some guiding principles. If you're wondering what best practice I absolutely hate, well, that's going to be things like double opt-in, things like A/B testing subject lines. And do you know what? I hate 30-day engagement cutoffs and any benchmarks that you find online, and even the ROI stat in email, because this stuff is not tested across multiple industries and it's not for your audience. So guiding principles, what are they? I'm going to whiz through these. Accessibility, you must make sure your emails are accessible. Add alt text, make sure they look okay with images off. This is an example of a guiding principle. Design and structure, no full image emails. That's an example of a guiding principle. No Canva cut and paste. Use your email builder blocks to create your emails. And these are things I've come up with because I do believe there are those kind of barriers we need to put in place. Use clear copy frameworks. People respond when you hit their emotions, and that's exactly what copy frameworks do. Do the one-line test. What's the one message this email needs to land, and start there. Mobile and rendering, again, that's my guiding principle. Does it look good on mobile? Can you see everything? Is the text big enough? Tick, tick, tick. Good. Let's go. Deliverability and risk. You must have deliverability as part of your strategy now, in the future. It doesn't matter. It's going to kill email if you do not do it. And the final P, plan. It's the how, okay? Not just the why. So how do you do it? How do you optimize? How do you fix? How do you innovate? How do you build? How do you execute? How do you test it? How do you grow it? How do you improve it? Well, your plan is never going to be static. An email plan should not be a calendar full of emails. An email plan evolves. It looks at signals that the data is telling you, and it's what gives you confidence, okay? These are all the things that I put into a plan after I've done all my other 3 Ps. I look at quick wins. What can we do quick? What could we do? Okay, you know what? We're going to take out that main navigation our email because we're going to innovate and do something different. Okay, we're actually going to try sending to a really smaller pot about just pure value for 30 days and see what happens. A transformation roadmap, impact forecasting, testing strategy, not subject lines, big picture. Okay, so this is like content, testing your content with different audience pots. How are you going to do it? What's your strategy? How are you going to create your content? What's your deliverability plan? And what's your internal plan and workshops? And these are all the things that you need to do to get this right. And finally, the last point before we end the session is going from an email sender to an email strategist. How do we do it? You are all marketers. We can't be on that hamster wheel thinking like senders or just people getting stuff out. We have to think strategy. We have to think system, not send. Lead with curiosity. Lead with the why. Why are we doing this? Is this going to create impact, or is this going to create a negative emotion for somebody? And optimize constantly. You know when and how to say no. I know it's not always possible in a business, but you are empowered by information to back up your points. So that's the fun part. A little bit about me just before I go and we do some questions. I'm not your typical email marketer. I think best practice is rubbish. I've changed my mind multiple times from the past. I used to follow best practice to the T, but now I want to help, and I am helping businesses and marketers rethink, rebuild, and reimagine email. I've worked with hundreds of businesses, trained thousands of marketers, and if you're not connected with me on LinkedIn, please join in the fun. Finally, please don't be a stranger. I have a weekly newsletter that goes out that talks way more about all of this stuff. We go into lots of detail, and I run free masterclasses about the 4P framework and how you can embed it into your business and rethink email properly. Also, lots of other free stuff, loads and loads of content. So please sign up and keep in touch. And last thing before we dig into some questions, this has already been announced. It is just a quick reminder. If you haven't already signed up to Certified Guru, I am honored to be the program director in this program. It's a global certification for marketers. It doesn't matter if you're an expert in email. It doesn't matter if you're just starting out. It's going to make sure your knowledge is up to date, solidified, validated, and you'll become part of a global community. And then you'll have that certification to show on LinkedIn and on your CV. And we've opened it up, and you have 90 days to complete it from when you signed up. So get going and let's dig into some questions. Thank you so much for listening.
Thank you everyone for attending the session. Please be sure to participate in the poll to the right of your screen. You'll also find a free offer pinned to the chat, and the deck for today's presentation and the handy AI recap will also be available at the bottom of your screen if you scroll down. Thank you so much, Beth, for being here. We have tons of great questions that came in from the Q&A tab. So are you ready to dive in?
Let's do it. I'm scared.
Okay. Don't be scared. These questions are coming in, and I was like, oh, these Beth's gonna have views on these. Okay, what's the first one? Okay, this was a good one. Are nurture series still relevant for lead conversion, or are they dead?
I think 100% still alive, still working, but it's probably different to someone else's definition of it. I think the whole point of a nurture series is to achieve a goal over a period of time, and that's what email impact is. So 100%. But if you're like, we'll send 3 emails and hope they do something at the end of those 3 emails, probably slightly different definition than me, but they work really well. I've got some fabulous examples if anyone wants to hear them, but yeah, for sure, they're still here, they're alive.
Awesome. Lead nurture's not dead. So this Google filter that ranks based on most engaged, etc., will that make send time testing obsolete?
Potentially. So it's a separate view. So it's not going to replace the inbox as we know it. I don't know if this is going to happen. So it's a separate view, but if people start using that view, and it's just for consumers at the minute, so not business inboxes, for me personally, is not ever really been that helpful, because as I mentioned in my presentation, people check the inbox, they go searching, they go finding, and they go scrolling. Okay, so I notice all the big brands send an email to me at 6 p.m. every day, and they're all there at the same time. So I wouldn't bother with send time optimization, to be honest.
I'm the same. All of my emails in my promotions tab, they all are marked as read. I will go in my promotions tab when I feel like browsing my promotions tab. It's not there with you on that one, Beth. Let's go for another one. Would email preference centers be a solution to confirming continuous permission, or is there a better way than just ticking off a box on a sign up? So I think we're just talking about like, how do you maintain permission to email someone, and is that through a preference center?
I think permission is invisible. You you get signals off people, okay, about permission. I've always thought a whole preference center is a pretty big ask to ask for someone to like fill in and tick, and it will always be the minority of your audience based on what people engage with, what they're not doing, to give you that permission to say, okay, well, we're not going to say. I think there might be a lag.
You cut off just a little bit there, but I think that a little bit of a lag, but I think we got the gist of what you're saying. So we'll jump to the next question. Could you elaborate on the example you mentioned about making the open rate? I feel like I already know the answer to that last bit.
Impact is incredibly hard to track, incredibly hard, and there's lots of different metrics that you can use. I have written a full blog on this, by the way, so if you sign up to my newsletter, you will find it. It will be in there at some point. But essentially, impact is about the stuff that you can see and that you can't see. Opens are neither a positive or negative metric. So to say opens of how you are taking into consideration the fact that it might not be a positive impact, then yes, track them. Other things you can do is time to first action. So when someone signs up for your newsletter, how long does it take for them to then take the next action, and define what that looks like for you? We've got things like, I have newsletter sends that go, and I have leads that have come into the business, conversations started, pipeline, everything is going up since I started my newsletter. So I know that impact is happening. I'm getting more replies and conversations. It's a big one, but if I do have a blog on it and lots of information, very hard to track, but you can measure impact over. I do it on a quarterly basis, if that helps anyone.
Awesome, that's great advice. I love the advice of that chart too. And again, I think people, when you were talking about opens, as it means like it could be a negative impact, that's when someone say like opens an email and immediately deletes it, right? Excellent. Okay, this is a good one. I'm working on refreshing dormant contacts, trying to decide between sending a "do you still want to talk to us" email or a marketing email with the unsubscribe button above the fold. What do you think, Beth?
Oh, I hate the whole let's re-engage our database, let's re-engage dormant contacts. Is that the best use? It's going to be a minority, okay? I would fully question why you're trying to do that. Has that come from above? We need to email more. We've got loads of people. We should be getting more sales, because if that's the case, that's the wrong direction for you. And there's probably a million other things that you could be doing by driving in a warmer audience and doing more with your email strategy with your warmer audience. If you send a message to people, you still want to be very minimal, and you also need to rule out a deliverability problem that you might have before you start doing that. So I would really encourage people to rethink the why around engaging dormant contacts. I personally think if you've smashed everything else in your email and you've got an email strategy, deliverability is great, you are like killing it, then absolutely. But most marketers cannot spare that time for minimal return. You will get minimal return from that.
Great answer. Let's do another one. How do you surpass the hurdle of emails?
I literally wrote about this in last week's newsletter, and I cut a line, and then I was like, you can't. I would ask the question, why? Why are you trying to get out of the place that you're meant to be? Okay. And have you got proof that if you land in the inbox versus promotions, you see impact? You are not going to be able to prove that. You're not trying to get out of than this. So that's the least of your problems. If you're going into promotions and not spam, count yourself lucky. You're doing amazing. People do go into promotions when they're checking something. So make sure you're there, make sure you're consistent, and you put things that are actually valuable. So when they go in, they're more likely to open and click and do something.
Yeah, so they're in that buying mindset when they're in the promotions tab. They're like, I want to try and browse some offers here. So you want to make sure that your emails are there. I too am a fan of the narrative that the promotions folder is not the spam folder. Question here: our clients push for email blasts. I hate that word, but I see it's in air quotes, so that's good. As their primary marketing sales tool, because that's how it's always been. They're resistant to the email evolution because the email is still where they see the money. Got any tips about how I can convince them that we can't keep doing the same things?
Yeah. A few tips really quickly. So first is the cost of inaction. It's really hard to quantify this, right? But if you can do a deliverability audit, because deliverability problems and blasting go hand in hand, right? Okay, they are going to be parallel. You're probably going to have some issues. So definitely do a deliverability audit, and you can quantify 50% of our emails are going to of impressions. An impression, you know, if we get this much click through, and you can start to quantify it. Money talks. Okay, money talks in all these conversations. I sometimes like to use a bit of a metaphor, because I like to use the metaphor of like, I'm going to come around and I'm going to knock on your door. I'm going to ring your doorbell in the morning. You're not going to answer. I'm going to come around the next day and I'm going to knock your door again and you're not going to answer. And I'm going to come around for a third day and I'm going to keep knocking on that door. And then you're going to open it and you're going to probably swear at me, tell me to go away, you hate me, and now I've been blacklisted off the whole street. Okay, so that's something I like to say. But money talks. I have gotten more blogs on all of this stuff, by the way, so please, if you've signed up to my newsletter, sign up and read through all this stuff. It's how to convince your stakeholders to stop batching and blasting, because it's really hard. It's really hard, but money is probably the only thing that I've had that they listen to.
Facts right there. How do you make certain that my B2B emails are getting through company firewalls?
Yeah, you can't make sure. You can't make sure. There's no workaround. There's no hacks. That's exactly what they're there to do. What you need to do is you need knowledge and awareness of what the amount of your audience that has these firewalls. I personally use Zero Bounce to validate all my data, and it will tell me exactly what firewalls they use. It will tell me if they've got Barracuda. It will tell me if they've got Mimecast. You can then quantify your audience with where you potentially not going to be able to get through. Now, remember, not all of them block you. A lot of them just hold your emails. Okay, they hold them for like 4 or 5 hours and then release them. So again, you'll send times for that with links and attachments or anything like that. You're not going to get through. Your best approach is an opted in audience. Okay, opted in when they've got to go they're going to want to go and find something in their inbox. So they're going to go look for it. They're going to go speak to IT. People have done it in my newsletter. They've like, I've messaged IT, I haven't had it. They've unblocked me. Cold email, I have to say, I'm sorry, it's done. It's done for, it's dead, and it's gone.
I feel like that is a great place for us to end this on. Thank you so much, Beth, for answering all the questions, and thank you everyone for attending the session. Please be sure to participate in the poll on the right of your screen. You'll also find a free offer pinned to the chat, and the deck for today's presentation and the AI recap are also available at the bottom of your screen if you scroll down. And thank you again, Beth, for being here. It was awesome chatting with you today.
Thank you.